Today we're going to be looking at fractions to decimals. So go ahead and in your notebook, converting fractions to decimals, sorry. In your table of contents, we're going to use the next two pages. We'll use 9, 10. And you can label this as convert fractions to decimals. And today's date is the 30th. All right, so then we can go to that page. So we look at page 9, 10, label this fractions to decimals. All right, and with our fractions to decimals, this is going to be our next skill. So this should be skill 3. We can say I can convert fractions to decimals. So I just want to get us some vocab first. When we convert fractions and decimals, there'll be two types of decimals, and it's important to know the difference between the two. So the first word I want us to define is terminating decimal. So if we write that down, a terminating decimal is, it has a finite number of digits following the decimal point. So it ends. Terminating decimal, it stops. The other type of decimal that we have is a repeating decimal. So a repeating decimal, it's unlike a terminating decimal. It has one or more digits following the decimal point. Following the decimal point that repeat. What it means by repeat is it never ends. So a terminating decimal will eventually stop. A repeating decimal, it's one that just goes on forever. Now what we're going to be looking at today is converting these fractions into decimals. I just want us to follow some steps, then we'll look at some examples. So the steps we have to follow, first, we always have to, well, you don't have to, but you should change fraction to improper fraction. So really this should say change mixed number to improper fraction, so that's okay. So if it's a mixed number, you're just going to change it to improper fraction. I don't like that fraction, it's not. And then all you do after you change it to improper fraction is you divide the numerator by denominator. And then you just go through your division. So when we draw it out, it's going to look, the numerator will always be on the inside and the denominator on the outside in our long division. So our long division gets set up like that. So let's try a couple examples. So convert these to decimals. So the first one I want us to do is 6 3/8. It's a mixed number, so we want to make it improper fraction. We're going to multiply the whole number by the denominator, then add. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 3 is 51. So we get 51 over 8. Then we're going to go through and do our long division. So 51 divided by 8, numerator on the inside. 8 goes into 51 6 times. 6 times 8 gives us 48. 51 minus 48 is 3. Now we don't want a remainder in this case. So what we have to do is just add a decimal and a 0. That way we can bring down a 0. 8 goes into 37 times. I'm sorry, 3 times. 3 times 8 gives us 24. We get 6 when we subtract, add another 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 60, 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, we get 4, add another 0. 8 goes into 40, 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40. So if we did 40 minus 40, we would get 0. So we know we're done. All we have to do is just make sure you bring up that decimal. So we know 6 3/8 as a decimal is the same as 6 375 thousandths. Let's do one more together, then I want you to try one. We have 6 1/3. Let's go ahead and convert this to a decimal. So the first thing we have to do is make it improper. So we multiply, then add. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. 19 over 3. Then let's just do our division. 3 goes into 19 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract, we get 1. Again, we have to bring down a 0. So we'll add a decimal, a 0. 3 goes into 10. 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, we get 1. Bring down another 0. 3 goes into 10. 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract, we get 1. Bring down another 0. By this point, we've seen 10 so many times, we can see that it's going to keep repeating. Because again, 3 will go into 10 3 times, and that same pattern just keeps going. This will be never ending if we keep going. So this is, if we bring up the decimal, this is 6.3333333 forever. But we don't want to write all these 3's. So what we do is just say 6.6 3/10. And this 3, since it's going to go on forever, we put a line over it. And that marks that it's repeating. So I want you to just try one. Change it into an improper fraction. Then divide, see how it goes. And we'll go over it. So I want you to try 2 1/6. So convert to a decimal. Sorry, 2 1/6. Try that. All right, so we're going to do 6 times 2 plus 1. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 we get 13. 13 over 6. So 13, remember that goes on the inside, 6 goes on the outside. 6 goes into 13 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. Minus 1, we have to add a 0 and a decimal. Don't forget to add that decimal when you add that 0. Bring down the 0. 6 goes into 10 once. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract, we get 4. Then we have to bring down a 0. 6 goes into 40 5 times. 6 times 6 is 30. 6. Subtract, we get 4. Then bring down another 0, we get 40. Now you can start seeing by this time, again, 6 goes into 40 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. We subtract, we get another 4, bring down a 0, we have 40. We've seen 40 a few times now, so we can see this is just going to keep happening. This 6 is just going to repeat. So if we bring the decimal straight up, we'll have 2.1, and since that 6 is the one that repeats, we write 6 with the line just over the 6, because that's the only one that keeps occurring. And that's 2 1/6 as a decimal.